My friend Earl Davis was one of the friendliest people I've ever met. He told me this story. He was driving through Los Angeles and he and his wife Jean got lost. They wandered around for a bit and then they wandered into an extremely difficult part of the city. Earl pulled over, rolled down the window, got out a map. This is before GPS. And he was looking at the map, trying to figure out where to go, when a young man came up next to the window with a gun, pointed at Earl, and said, "Give me your money." Earl did this. "Friend, we're lost. We're trying to get here, and we're not quite sure where we are." Well, the young man looked at him, looked at the map, and then he did this. "Well, here's what you do. You got to get over here, then you head over, go to the light, turn left, and once you get there, you'll know you're good to go." Earl said, "Thank you," and he sped off. Now here's the thing about Earl, and by the way, I'm not recommending you do that every time in that situation. But when Earl said friend, he meant it. It wasn't dependent on what the other person was doing. What kind of friends do you have in your life? When it comes to interpersonal relationships, enjoy the journey.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this is day 6, I do believe. Yes, day 6. We have 2 more days to go. Welcome to today's program. Our focus for today is interpersonal relationships, just like you heard in the video. And I am excited to talk about this topic and excited to have a guest with me because this is one of those parts of health that we don't often look at. Again, we look at exercise, we look at what we're eating, but we don't often look at the relationships that we have. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to focus on relationships. Remember, this is our 8 days together is an opportunity for us to get acquainted with, right? We're not going in depth, but it's an opportunity for us to get acquainted with these different aspects of our health, these 8 different aspects of our health, which spell the word creation. C is for choice, R is rest, E is environment, A, activity, T, trust in God, I, interpersonal relationships, O, outlook, and N, nutrition. That's the fastest I've ever been able to say all of that, and I'm quite proud of myself. But this has been our focus. These are our 8 days, and we get to take a look at each of these health principles for just a little bit each night. If you haven't joined us prior to today, I want to invite you to go back and watch the previous 5 episodes of this health seminar so that you can be refreshed also. I also want to invite you to take another step in your journey and go to our website, athensgasda.org/8days. If you go to that page, you will find a registration site for this event. Well, why am I telling you about a registration site when we are 6 days into an 8-day seminar? I'm telling you about it because there's a great resource on there that I share from every night, which is the study guide. And this study guide goes in depth with each of these 8 principles. And there are parts of this that I share that I believe are really helpful, but parts we just don't, most of it we don't have time to go through. So if you go on to this website and you register and you give that $10 donation, then we will send you one of these study guides. And I'm excited to get this into your hands. If you do that, you'll also get a copy of Vibrant Life magazine. And I know you're seeing this backwards, but I'm going to show it anyway. Vibrant Life magazine is a magazine that focuses on mind, body, and spirit. So it focuses on the complete package, just like these 8 days are helping us to focus on the complete package of our health. So if you want to go into more detail, please go ahead and order one of these study guides, and we'll get that to you as soon as possible. Also, this is a great time for everyone to check in. So if you are here, go ahead and put in the comments, "I'm here." Just go ahead and put that there. "I'm here." If you want to perhaps give us a sense of how you're feeling today, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, the sun isn't shining, to 5 being it's really bright outside, where would you put yourself along there? Or maybe you can think of it as, a stormy night versus cloudless, happy midday. However you want to phrase it. Let us know how you're doing. We want to know how you're doing. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know that you're here so that I can keep attendance. Because if you're here all 8 days, if you watch all 8 days, even if you're not watching live, you may have to go back and catch up on our YouTube channel. That's fine. If you engage with us for each of these 8 days and leave comments when I tell you to leave a comment, then I'll know that you're with us, and that way you'll be entered. Hi, Theo. Thank you for saying that you are here. This way you'll be entered to receive, or not entered, but you will receive a special prize. Either a journal, which is wonderful because it gives you an opportunity to reflect on your health journey, or you'll get an exercise band, which has exercises on it, ways to use the exercise band, which I think is just so smart and wonderful. Hey, Fritzy, good to have you here with us too. So I encourage you to engage with each of our videos. Make sure that you comment when asked to comment so that I know you were watching. And when this wraps up on Tuesday, I'll take stock of everything. And on Wednesday, I'll have time to go back and make sure I've tracked everyone appropriately. And then I will get you your prizes. All right. Now, excuse me. With this focus on interpersonal relationships, I definitely wanted to have someone to talk to about interpersonal relationships, not just be here by myself when we're talking about what it means to connect with other people. And so I invited someone that I have come to know and respect, a young man by the name of Amishadai Grandjean, and I am excited to have him on here. I'll bring him onto the screen in just a moment. But first, before I do that, I want to let you know that he is a recent author of this book, Bench Warmer: What to Do When You're on the Bench of Life. And so you can go to Amazon right now. Well, not right now. Do a little later, unless you can multitask. Go ahead to Amazon and order one of his books. I am sure that you will be blessed. I've ordered it, like I literally have it, and I haven't read it yet, Amishadai, but I'm gonna get to it. But I know people who have read it and have really enjoyed it, so I'm willing to endorse it simply based on that and based on what I know of Amishadai. So go ahead and get that book, share it with a friend, and without further ado, thank you, Amishadai, for joining me this evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, I think I have you muted. Where? Oh, you've muted yourself. You're gonna have to unmute yourself, Amishadai. Nope, can't hear you. I can read your lips though. All right, he'll be right back on, and we'll get him connected. And while he's coming, oh, there he is. All right, Amishadai. Let's see. All right, I hear you.
Hello?
Welcome,
Perfect.
welcome. Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right. Technology is getting the best of all of us.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight, Amishadai. I want to dig into your mind regarding interpersonal relationships. I know that you are the kind of person that people are easily drawn to, connected to, because you have one of those personalities. I remember talking to a couple of students when you were still on campus at UGA and them saying, man, if you're walking with Amishadai, like, don't be in a rush because every 2 seconds on campus, somebody's saying, "Hey, Amishadai, hey, Amishadai," and you just, you feel great because you're in, famous company, but don't expect to get anywhere fast, right? So this is what I and others know of Amishadai. So I know that you're a friendly person and genuinely so. Um, has it always been easy for you to make friends?
That's a great question. I would say that I think as I've gotten older, it's been easier to make friends. Believe it or not, when I was younger, I was a really shy kid. And my dad was like, my dad's a preacher. He's like, I'm not going to have any son of mine be shy. And so he forced me into the public light. So he would make us give speeches at birthday parties. He'd make us, speak at church, read the Bible, just everything, forcing us in that space. And I think the older I got, it just was kind of more easy to talk to people. But then also being afraid too. When I was in middle school, high school, everyone kind of goes through this period of being bullied and stuff, and or just not having friends or eating alone. And so I've always didn't want someone to feel that way. So I made it my mission and goal to just make people feel comfortable. And so I was fortunate that even in college, like if it was just a random person, I just would smile at them or say hello, because I know how much it makes a difference when you're somewhere that you feel like you stick out or that you don't know anyone, but when someone gives you a nice smile, you feel okay, a little bit more welcome. And so it just always made that my motto, to wave and say hello at people. So I'm really fortunate to kind of make a lot of friends across the way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, Tell me, why are interpersonal relationships, friendships, why are they so important to you?
They're important because, at least for me, it helps. I want to say helps complete me, but that doesn't mean I'm incomplete without it. But I think it's an integral part that God and just that God just put inside of us is to have
Mm-hmm.
companies, to have other people around us.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you find encouragement, you find support, you find laughter. A lot of people have tried to go through life on their own, and they've gotten somewhat far, but again, they still haven't, reach or unlock certain things. And I think there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with other people. And I think
Mm,
it's just because when you want to give up in that journey or you don't want to keep going forward, there's someone there to kind of help encourage you, even if it's just one person. And so I think that we were made to be relationship beings and that we have relationships all around us. But if we learn how to focus and feed them and nurture them, they're able to bless us back and then just, again, making a better environment for us to thrive in.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so real. That's so real. Uh, and there are many times I like the proverb that you spoke of that you referenced because there are many times when we feel as if I'm just going to do this by myself, whether it's a
Hmm.
project we're working on or maybe it's a trip we're taking and we just want to do it alone or we're trying to build a bookshelf and we say I've got it whatever it may be. There are times when we want to be alone.
Yeah.
How have your relationships with others challenged or even deepened your understanding of the importance of connection?
That's a great question. I think that when you have a relationship with someone else, regardless of what it is, it gives you an opportunity to see a mirror of yourself. Because I think that sometimes you can be very blind to things that you say, things that you do, or even the problems around you. I think when you brought up the example of making a bookshelf by yourself, you can be like, oh, this is the wrong piece, or I don't know why this is not working. And you're so frustrated. But that if someone else looked at it, say, oh, you're using the wrong tool, or the screw's
Right.
over there. And so I
Hmm.
think that what I've learned is that relationships and those around you, they kind of help you see a more 360 view of yourself, of your life, of your purpose, or your goals, and it just kind of helps ground you in that way. Once again, solitude is good in certain aspects in a certain amount, but I think again, when you're able to connect with others, they help remind you your why. They ask you questions that kind of challenge you. Sometimes it feels
Hmm.
uncomfortable. I would have during my college time friends that I knew I didn't want to go to because they would tell me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And so I would try to avoid them. But the truth is, they would help me say, "Well, why are you feeling that way? Or what is the root of that reason of whatever you said?" And I'm like, they challenge you in a way to help you see, you know what, I need to work on this or I need to work on that. And again, these are things that you just can't realize if you're just by yourself, or it's much harder and it's going to take much
Hmm.
longer to realize that. And so It's definitely been helpful in shaping me to realize, hey, there's some parts that's good about me. So it helps me build my self-esteem and my confidence and my courage when I do something or I say something, but also help me say, hey, these are some weaknesses or these are some areas of improvement. And it helped me focus on improving and being also accountable as well.
Speak more about that accountability piece, because I feel like that's one area that we're often so afraid of. We're afraid of vulnerability. We're afraid, I mean, like you said, there's some people, will tell you stuff you don't want to hear, so you ignore them or you don't go to them. Um, how have your interpersonal relationships um, strengthened your desire for accountability or your ability to want accountability?
Very true. I think if anything, I've learned that you have to have certain people who can play that role of being
Mm,
accountability. Because I think that we all have or are afraid of being judged already, being ridiculed, or even our struggles or whatever we're going through seem as minuscule. You're stressing about da da da, like because you burnt the chicken. I mean, that's not serious. Like, there's ways that it could be funny, like, oh, that's not that serious, really. But sometimes you have those friends who can minimize what you're going through, and you don't want to answer to that, or kind of are a watchdog and say, hey, you said you weren't going to eat any chips. I see you eating chips, and that feels type of way. So I've been very, very fortunate and blessed to have some good friends who've been accountability partners who, in a sense, guide me and kind of reprimand me in a pleasant way. They're like, "Hey, Michelle,
mhm,
remember you said we're gonna try to work out every day. So I see that you need to do this. Let's make sure we're
mhm,
doing that. How is that going, by the way? There's a way to do that, and because they've done it that way, it's actually encouraged me to be a better accountability partner to other people. To realize that, hey, you know, there's a way to encourage someone. You don't have to always kind of put their mistakes in their face. And
mhm.
so again, I think that naturally as humans, we're afraid of hearing what's wrong about us. We want to hear what's
Yeah,
right about us, or we
yeah.
don't want to be held accountable. But again, when you find those people who are very special and rare, who can help
Mhm,
keep you accountable, but they help build, they say, I understand why you fell. I understand how you gave into that sweet or into whatever. But
mhm.
listen, remember the bigger goal. Like the way they speak to you just kind of helps you want to achieve better. And it also
Yeah.
challenges you to say, I want to be that type of person to somebody else.
Mhm, mhm. Oh, that's great. Yeah. No, that's so real. That's so real. I want to be that kind of person to somebody else. I love the fact that you said, it's. I mean, you didn't say it exactly like this, but when you said it, I interpreted as you can't be accountable with just anybody. you know,
Yeah, very
you
true.
know, not every friend is an accountability buddy.
Yep. Yep.
There are levels of friendship that we exist in, and not everyone is ready for that.
Hmm.
And there may be somebody who's ready, and maybe we're not ready to be accountable to them. So there's all of this that plays into
Hmm.
accountability. Um, Let me ask you another question here. What are a few elements that you've learned are
Hmm.
key to a healthy relationship with others?
That's good. For some reason, as you were saying it, trust was yelling out on my
Mm.
mind. And I think that's something that we have trust issues. I'm gonna start with myself. I do have trust issues. I'm like, can I really trust her? You know what I'm saying? I know she's a pastor, but is she really not going? And so I think it's trust. I think trust is a large foundation. I would say
Mhm.
trust and then respect, and then also I would say trust, respect, and the area or a space to grow. And,
Okay.
and the reason why I said I think first you want to be able to trust someone with your vulnerabilities, with your flaws, with
Mhm.
seeing every part of you. Sometimes again
Mhm.
with this world and even our parents, you don't talk to strangers, you don't know who people are, you don't eat from people's
Right.
food. Again, so we all have our defenses up.
Mhm.
But again, we have to be able to have trust. Okay, I trust so and so. I trust that they have my best interests at heart, that they're not trying to hurt me if they say something, because that
Mhm.
helps in that relationship. Also
Right.
respecting as well, to realize that you're not going to degrade someone or to put them down or to minimize again their struggles or what's going on in their lives, but understanding, hey, they have a complete different story than you. But because they're sharing this with you, you need to respect what they're talking about and empathize with them. Not just kind of assume that it's not that big of a deal. And then third, I'm kind of making up a concept, but I would say just kind of room to grow or area to grow where you can encourage that person. They can encourage you on where you realize, okay, what is it that you want to become? You want to become a pilot. Well, how do we get there? Well, what do we need to do now? And how can we take the steps to do every day? I think that's just a key part that I appreciate our friendships because, we don't want to be stagnant. We don't want to be static or just kind of all in the same levels. And sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
find people that way who are just okay, just being that level. And that's fine.
Right.
But for me personally, I like people who say, okay, hey, what are we doing this year? What are we doing this month? Not again making you exhausted, but just holding you accountable to say, hey, you have a purpose to reach, not a potential, because we can all accomplish different things, but there's a purpose inside of you, and what are you doing to work towards that? And so I think those three things is what helps make a great relationship. That's what I have in my friendships and not my relationships, and I think it helps people overall because they can have someone that they can talk to and they trust, also someone that they respect and respects them as well, and their feelings and their opinions and values. And finally, just someone who just encourages them to just reach higher and to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. And hearing you speak reminded me of a conversation I had with a friend just this last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And what reminded me of that conversation was what you're describing is kind of like a higher level of friendship than what we initially enter into, right?
Yep.
Like you don't typically like meet someone and right off the bat you're just like, this is what our friendship's gonna look like. Like in order to be my friend, you're like
Exactly.
these are the rules, right? We're gonna go deep, like
Yeah.
nothing shallow here, right? But there's this higher level of maturity, of
Mm,
understanding, and not everyone's ready for that. Not everyone's
mm-hmm.
ready for that. So, I'm sure you weren't this way when you were 11, but as you've grown into this view of friendship, have you found yourself having to let go of friendships?
Mm, that's deep. And yes, I think that as much as you could, want something for someone, I think it was the poemist, rapper J. Cole, who said love is wanting, more for someone than they want for themselves. I think it's like you realize there are those people who unfortunately can bring you down, or it can
Mhm.
put you in a position where your purpose and your destiny is at risk. And so, I think we were always afraid from middle school to high school to college of being that fake friend to just act different. You would always hear people say, "Oh, she's acting different now. Or she's, doing this, or he's president now, so he doesn't know us anymore." So you're always afraid of that, and that's why you try your best to always stay connected. But then you also realize that the truth is that people do grow apart, or sometimes we do different things. That we can respect each other from afar, but also maybe in contrary positions. And so I'm thinking of a friend right now who just, I wanted him to do better with his life and to work on different things and always be there for him, but he just kind of chose a lifestyle that he preferred. But eventually I found myself one day after college, during college, visiting for the weekend or visiting during the break, and I remember just being in a position with them that I felt very uncomfortable. And I said to myself, if you're found where you are right now, what is all of the things that you've done or that you're supposed to do, how does that put yourself in that position? And I had to make a tough decision in that moment to realize, okay, wow, so and so is still my friend, but I have to have a safe and healthy boundary between me
Mm,
and that person. I
mhm,
can't allow, in the name of friendship, to lose, what I'm called to do just for the sake of being loyal. And the truth is, this person was doing the same thing with me, not realizing, but just kind of associating themselves with more and more of that crowd and that lifestyle that they chose to live, that we were already becoming drifting. But for me, to this day, I still try to call them every so often. Hey, how you doing? I'm praying for you. Hey, you want to go out to eat? Whatever we can do in that way. But I think that also when you're thinking about yourself, you think about other friendships. There comes that time of just using wisdom of knowing when to cut it, when to
mhm,
minimize it, or when to put healthy boundaries in there, because you can also have friends who just sow seeds of just discouragement. You can't do that. That's too expensive. That's going to be too stressful. They say it casually or even kindly, but they don't realize that they're like, I would say, is it stifling, or just kind of
mhm,
suffocating your dream and your goals. And so you have to remember, okay, me and so and so can still be friends, but I have to realize, like you said, Pastor Michaela, there's different levels to it. And so maybe so and so is not deep. Maybe they're just a little bit under shallow or on the shallow level or whatever, and that's totally fine. The biggest example I would use is just Jesus. He had 12 disciples, He also had a lot of other disciples that weren't named, but he also had like the three that he rolled with, and that was the
Right.
one he asked to pray, and he cried, in front of, and everything. Like they saw that part of him. And so
Hmm.
I've learned very quickly throughout my experience. I'm still young, but that the whole world doesn't have to be your best friend. Like you don't have to just be on that deep level with everybody. It's totally fine not to
Hmm.
be that way.
Hmm. Hmm. And and it and it's practical not to be that way, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
hard enough keeping up with a few friends, let alone a lot of friends,
Yep.
with depth to the relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think it's one of those things that at some point or another we have to realize that there's a deeper way to be a friend, and
Yep.
either we're choosing it or we're not. Or like you said, we have to put into place these boundaries. um
Hmm.
Not everyone is taught to have boundaries. We're taught maybe to build walls, but a wall is different from a boundary in relationship
Hmm.
terms. A wall says keep out, whereas a boundary is just like, we can be here, but we can't be here.
Exactly.
Um,
Yep.
and so learning to do that and realize that it's still a healthy relationship, just because there are
Hmm.
boundaries doesn't mean it's not healthy. But this is all
Hmm.
this is all part of the maturation process, and
Yep.
we haven't necessarily reached that level because of age. Age is no guarantee.
Hmm.
It takes a conscious learning and growing and
Hmm.
reflecting. Another question for you.
Okay.
So one of the toughest aspects of relationships is conflict.
Mm.
I don't know, maybe it is the toughest. I don't know. I didn't really think about it, but it's certainly one of the toughest aspects of a relationship. Is there a conflict, an interpersonal conflict that you've been able to work through so that the relationship can continue to grow? Because for some people, and myself included, if we see that there's a conflict, we may take it as a sign to cut ties.
Yep.
you know, this is too much. I didn't ask for this. I can't deal with it. Bye. It must be a sign that we're not supposed to be friends again.
Exactly.
But then there are times when yeah, we want to work through it. So has there been a time like that for you where you didn't cut ties, but you actually worked through, and the relationship was able to grow?
Yeah, as you said, I think of a friend of mine. We met in 2014, I believe, and so we've been friends to this day. And our personalities are very similar. So you can imagine there's some moments of conflict where the pride gets in the way, or where who's gonna say sorry first, or you don't see my side, and etc. And there's also an age difference between us as well, like about a whole decade. So he's like
Oh
my
wow.
best friend, but sometimes like my brother. And I'm so grateful for his relationship. But we've had several conflicts, and I think every time we have a conflict, I think to myself, okay, is this worth this issue? Is it worth ending things? And
Mm.
one tangible example is that we were playing chess. This is really funny. But we're playing chess, and he's beating me, and I'm upset, and so I decided to be petty and let the time run out and not just play. I'll let the time run out, and I lose by time default rather than just let him beat me. And he was so upset at me, rightfully so. It was very, very bad of me doing that. And so he was upset with me. He said, "Man, you waste my time. I don't really appreciate that." And I had a good laugh, but then I wondered to myself, "Okay, I know he's upset, and so am I just gonna let him fester or let that destroy our relationship? Or am I gonna reach out and say, you know what, that was unsportsmanlike. I should apologize?" And so in that moment, I decided to, hey, reach out. Look, I apologize. That was really wrong of me. You won fair and square. And later on, he told me, hey, I really appreciate that you apologized very quickly. I didn't think you were going to do so. Because in me, I said to myself, well, we've been through so much. I benefit from this relationship so much. I don't want this to ruin that. And I think that sometimes when we do run into conflict, we think, okay, I still struggle with that with other type of friendships. I just like, all right, let me just ghost them for a little while. That's something that young people say. I'm just gonna disappear and then show up 7 days later, like, hey, you still here? But that's not really healthy. It's really like it's okay to take a moment to collect your thoughts, but also to come back and to re-engage with that person, with that relationship, and say, okay, well, what is the issue? Where did we fall off, or what can we do together? And kind of being um in a space to be vulnerable, to admit a fault. Sometimes I've gone to arguments knowing, okay, I was right. I'm not gonna say I'm sorry, but you realize if you don't say you're sorry or don't realize something, you're not gonna come to a point of peace. And once again, I told myself our relationship, or I love our bond so much that it's worth me. If I had to say sorry, I'm sorry, and I keep it pushing, but there's a way for you to do that. And I think that we have to remember that, no matter what you decide to do in life, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be challenges. And if you just gave up because there was a challenge, you'll never be able to appreciate, the great quality of it. Again, there's a reason why fast foods is different than Thanksgiving meals, because Thanksgiving meals, they take time. You may burn them a little bit, but they hit different. But McDonald's and Chick-fil-A is great, but it just doesn't hit the same way as a peach cobbler or a pumpkin pie or whatever it is. Sorry, I'm getting hungry. I gotta
I know.
go
Where's
eat.
November? Where's November?
Exactly right. We're just skipping summer, just going straight to November now.
uh, no, that is real. That is real. Thank you for sharing that experience. And I feel as though it could have gone a different way where you realized he was upset, maybe he even verbalized, and you were just like, "What's the big deal?" Like,
Exactly.
come on,
Yep.
And so
Yep.
there's an aspect of friendship that you've described where, you've got to put yourself aside. And as you were saying, being able to say, okay, I value this relationship. This is more than this moment.
Mm-hmm.
um but it can be easy for us to feel like the other person should see things as we see them. It's no big
Exactly.
deal, come on,
Yeah.
laugh a little, lighten up, or
Yeah.
whatever. But we don't always know why something hits somebody else differently than it hits us. And to be
Yeah.
able to be humble
Yep.
in that situation is so necessary. It's so
Mm-hmm.
necessary.
Very true.
How would you say your interpersonal relationships impact your overall health? Because, these 8 days, we're looking at these eight health principles, but
Mm-hmm.
we're realizing they're not separate from each other, right? They're
Yeah.
they're all connected. Our ability to have a healthy outlook enables us to exercise, you know, and our ability to trust in God helps us as we're making choices, right? There's all this interconnectedness with these health principles. So when you think about your overall health and your friendships, your interpersonal relationships, how do those relationships impact your overall health?
Yes. So as we mentioned before, I think that those relationships really help encourage me, and provide growth. I think I would say one is sanity, just to make you not go crazy. You have someone to talk to, someone to express your feelings. Can you believe so and so did this, or this is what I had today? I'm guilty of using my friends as my therapist. I just have like six of them, so I don't tell them everything, but I just give each person a little bit 10%, and I just kind of be able to just take care of things. And I let one of them call me out and say, "I think you need to go see a therapist," but they just you choose great friends who are able to talk to you and listen to you in a way that they give good sound advice that you feel
Yeah.
a weight lifted. And I feel like that's the part of health, is that I have friends I know I can call and I can express my feelings. I can be upset and they listen, but they're able to give me a response that helps me feel like, wow, like I'm much better after that 15-minute conversation, after that 20 or sometimes hour-long conversation. And so it's so
Hmm.
important to have, again, those different types of people that you can go and reach out to. And I think,
Hmm.
again, in friendships, you have to remember that you have to water as well so that you can be able to reap. You have to sow to in order to reap. And so
Right.
I realized, which just to mention too, that we can't just be takers, or just like, let me get this, let me get that. We have to also sow too, and you never know when you may need it. And so you don't do it just for it to be matched back. But I've always realized that so and so is in their best position to help me or to bless me if they're in a great position to be blessed by themselves, if that makes sense. So like,
Hmm.
you can
Hmm.
only pull from the mango tree if you fertilize it and plant it and put in good soil, good sunlight. Then it's in its best position to give you what you want. And so for my friends, I try to make sure that, hey, I'm reaching out to them. Hey, how can I help you? Let's talk about your problems first, or whatever in the issue, because then you're able to get better responses. But if you just have someone that you just kind of taking and taking, you're not going to get the most quality of it. And so the relationships that I have had, I have. has been so grateful to me. I've been a blessing to me, from laughter to just encouragement, reminding me my purpose and what is important, to helping me to forgive and to see through my emotions. Sometimes I get petty or I get cloudy and I don't know how I feel. I just don't feel good, and they're able to help me through that. And so the relationships for me are just such an integral part. And I know that right now, even this pandemic, there are those friendships are a little bit are tested, or it's harder because you can't really go out to see them, or it's long distance and stuff. But I think that my friendships has helped me to keep somewhat of a positive outlook on life, to stay sane, to stay remembering what's important, and to not just give in. And I think it also is a call to action for all of us to be better friends, to be someone who is planting and helping those around us, because as we've always said, you never know what someone's going through, and so you never know when you can be in a position to be a blessing to someone else.
You truly never know. You really don't. Um, is there anything else about your journey in interpersonal relationships, your friendship life? Is there anything else that you have really enjoyed, or been challenged by, that you'd also like to share with us tonight?
Um, I would say the last part is, if for the most part, if you can, choose your friends wisely. There's this old poster I remember they posted in elementary school of an unsharpened pencil surrounding itself with sharpened pencils. And people are not perfect, so remember that automatically. But I think in each of my friends, there's some portion that they have that I would like to achieve or aspire to one day. Whether
Mm-hmm.
that's their personality, whether that's their calmness and how they deal with stress, whether that's how they are go-getters and motivators, they set a goal and they accomplish it, whether that's how they speak to people, how they're a good friend, how they deal with anger. And so I think that it's also important that when you look at those around you, see what are some areas that I'm lacking in. I know I need to be more loving, I know I need to stress less, or I know I need to be more active, and whatever it may be, is in your spiritual life, in your active life. And then find people who are doing well, or where you would like them to be in those areas, and then be able to befriend them, and to connect with them. And I think that you'll realize that you'll benefit and grow from that. And then also, when you connect with these people, they'll see something in you that, hey, I want to be more like this, or this person can help me be more like this. And so I've been fortunate to have friends who, sometimes would slip up and say a swear word around me. They would feel so bad. I'm like, no, it's okay. You can be yourself. But they said, no, I want to be your friend because you don't do this, and I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
do this. So I feel like being around you helps me limit what I do. And I
Hmm.
never realized that. Something I just never thought of. But for them, they see me as someone who's stronger on that level. But for me, I
Mm.
realized that, hey, they're a strong person in, accomplishing academic goals, or setting a goal and accomplishing. That's why I'm around them. And so again, you
Mm-hmm.
never know when you're doing something that's just totally normal to you, that someone would really like more of, and that's what they want to be around you. But also, you can do the same thing to realize, hey, I love how Pastor Michaela is able to break this down, or I love her presentation styles. Let me copy this, or let me glean from this. We can all glean and gain knowledge from each other. And I think that's the biggest part, is when choosing your friends wisely. It's pointless, in my opinion, just to have friends, but to have
Mm-hmm.
intentional friends that, at least I'm learning something from them by watching them, by talking to them, by being around them. And also having friends that that can pour into you, to tell you, hey, they're not going to charge you for a secret. Well, hey, this is how I do it, or this is what you
Mm-hmm.
can do, because you do
Mm-hmm.
have those other friends that's like, come on, really? But you also got to support your friends too. So I guess you got to support them. Yeah.
I love that. Won't charge you for a secret. I love that. I love that. Well, Misha, I thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been
Thanks
a
for
joy
having
to
me.
talk with you, and I'll just create some other opportunity for us to interview you again. So,
Fantastic. Sounds like a plan.
all right, take
Definitely.
care.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye. That was good. I'm so grateful that I was able to have this time with Amisha Dai. And in talking about um, interpersonal relationships with somebody who has clearly experienced a lot, learned a lot, and been blessed and been a blessing to so many. And so I'm grateful that he was able to join us tonight. I want to get now into, oh, before I get into other things, just as a reminder, he has a book, and I want to encourage you to get it. He didn't ask me to do this. I don't think he would have thought to even ask me, and that's fine. But I'm doing this because I believe in supporting his work. So That's his book, and you can get it on Amazon. All right. Um, let's talk now about what the book has to say about interpersonal relationships. Oh, I forgot something else. Sorry. My mind tends to be, all over the place. But I forgot something else that I want to share with you. Yesterday, Saturday, Sabbath, during our worship service, we were blessed by a sermon titled Stress, Anxiety, and Christ. And I meant to bring this up on Friday. I meant to bring this up on Friday, which is why it says tomorrow's sermon. But now you can, it's okay. Anyway, we had a sermon by Dr. Chris Corbett on stress, anxiety, and Christ. And Chris is a psychologist and was able to help us think about stress, anxiety, and Christ, right? So often we kind of piece out our relationship with the Lord or these aspects of our lives, we categorize them, we have them in different boxes. And Chris was able to talk to us about this topic in a way that was really insightful. And so I want to encourage you to head to our YouTube page, which I'll show you a bit later in just a couple minutes. We don't have that much longer together, but I'll show you in just a couple minutes because there's something else that I want to point you to on our YouTube channel. But I encourage you to watch that. I think when it comes to the time we're in, this pandemic, stress, anxiety, they've been skyrocketing for so many, or I would dare say for everybody. And as Christians, as people who believe in the power, the love of God, great opportunity to listen to what Chris had to share and be blessed by that. So I encourage you to do that. Now I want to share a quote from our study guide. I'm not aware of any other factor in medicine, not diet, not smoking, not exercise, not stress, not genetics, not drugs, not surgery, that has a greater impact on our quality of life, incidence of illness, and the premature death from all causes than does love and intimacy. Now, I'm going to read that again, but shorten it so that I make sure you get the point. This is from Dr. Dean Ornish. I'm not aware of any other factor in medicine that has a greater impact on our quality of life than does love and intimacy. This has been studied. Relationships have been studied, and it is clear from the studies that relationships are a key part of our health. The book even talks about the fact that, generally speaking, women have more relationship networks, connections than men do, which is probably why women tend to live longer than men. Men, you can learn from that, okay? Do what needs to be done to deepen your relationship pool, so to speak. Excuse me. And it's not just about, calling everybody friend, but actually having people that you connect with in a meaningful way on a regular basis. So our relationships with each other play a key part in our overall health, even to the point of helping us live longer. That is quite a striking fact. And so I want to make sure that you keep that in mind. Another thing that I want to share with you is this. The book talks about these 3 areas. This is in the reinforce the message section of the chapter. So toward the end, where there are these skill builder exercises, it encourages us to use this circle approach. And if you get the workbook, you'll actually see this in there. But it says in that first circle, number 1, the innermost circle, in there, write the names of people who are your most important and direct supporters, okay? Who are your most important and direct supporters? Put that in circle 1. In circle 2, write the names of friends and relatives who are not as significant, but who still provide support, okay? That's in number 2. Number 3, In the third circle, write the names of people you have a relationship with, don't really get support from, but feel you could if you really needed it. And then it encourages you to take some time to reflect on this list that you've created. Who are the people in that innermost circle? Who are the people in that second circle, the green? And who is in that blue circle? Describe how this exercise has made you feel, right? You may be surprised by who you have in these circles. So it's called a social circles exercise, and I find it I haven't done it myself, but even just by reflecting on it, I realize that many of us probably have more of a support system than we would say if someone were to ask us offhand. Once we really think about it, we may realize, oh, I really do have people that I can call on that will check in with me, that I know will support me in some way when I need it. How many of us are living in such a way where we feel as though we have no one? If that's you, I want to encourage you to go through this exercise and reflect on who you may actually have. Before we wrap up here, I want to point out a few tips at the very end of the chapter, tips for success. One is investing in friendships, of course. Volunteer service is a great way to improve our relationships. It helps us to care more deeply, more genuinely about others. Another thing that this lists, and there's several items listed, is neighbors. Be attentive and friendly to those who live near you. If you have elderly neighbors, offer to drive them to the grocery store. Welcome new families with pies, breads, or flowers. Offer to care for their lawns while they are on vacation. Even in this time of a pandemic, we still have so many opportunities to bless and be blessed by our neighbors. And so I want to encourage each of us to figure out how we can be truly a neighbor and watch how that helps our relationships flourish, not just with our neighbors, but with others. This last year in the fall, this is our YouTube page for our church. Um, we had a special week together, or refuel week, where we focused in on what it means to be a neighbor. And we had a special guest speaker with us, and it was really meaningful time. You can catch those videos on our YouTube channel. Just click on playlists. When you do that, you will then see this page. And these are all of our playlists. That second one, Refuel Week, October 2020, that's the one that you want to click on finally. And this is where you'll find some great information about being a neighbor. Folks, we have clearly run out of time, but I'm so glad that you joined me tonight. And I pray that each of your relationships will grow in some way or another. I pray that you will find the energy to pour into your relationships and that you will be willing to have others pour into you, recognizing that these relationships with others truly are a key part of our overall health. Let's pray. God, as we go now and do whatever we need to do on this Sunday evening, as the work week begins, the school week begins, God, help us to never lose sight of how important we are to each other. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Take care, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow for day 7. Only 2 more days left. So we'll see you then. Take care.